Okay, and this is chapter 7 billion. All right, we've got the world's population recently reached 7 billion, probably on blank 31 2011, April, November. By recently, we mean in 2011, which is not so recent anymore. All right, so 7 billion and counting. If you've been following the news, you will know that the world's population recently reached 7 billion, probably on October 31st. So, number 1 is October. All right. It seems there will probably be blank billion people by 2030 and 9 billion by around 2050. 2030. The statistics concerning human population growth are astonishing. It was only 12 years ago, in 1999, that the world's population reached 6 billion. In 1969, there were 3.5 billion people on the planet, which is to say our numbers have doubled in only 42 years. A century ago, in 1911, there were only 1.8 billion of us, 26% of today's total. Scientists who try to estimate the number of people who have ever lived in the tens of thousands of years since our ape-like ancestors evolved into what we would recognize as human beings usually come up with figures between 100 and 110 billion. If 100 billion were correct, we could say that 7% of all the humans ever born are alive today. That's kind of odd stretch. Here, this graph is supposed to actually show how it's by population size instead of by your typical map. And so this is showing where a population has increased. So you see little United States, and now the United States is bigger. And you see little Africa. And then now we're like, whoa, Africa. And here, Europe was like, woo, we're going crazy. And then now it's like, we're done going crazy. And yeah, Asia was a little bit more in the background. But also, yeah, so here, South America got bigger. All right. As for future population growth, it seems there will probably be 8 billion people by 2030 and 9 billion by around 2050. So 8. Number 2 is 8. The fastest rates are generally in the world's blank countries. After that, predictions may vary. Many experts think the total will rise more slowly, perhaps reaching 10 billion by the end of the century. But a few believe that fast rise might continue, leading to global population of as many as 15 billion by 2100. Oh no, I moved my thing over. Okay. All right. There are big differences between the rates of population growth around the world. The fastest rates are generally in the world's poorer countries, including those in sub-Saharan Africa, while the populations of rich countries are mostly growing much more slowly or even shrinking in a few cases. Germany and Japan, for example, will have smaller populations in 2050 than they do now. All right, so poorer. Okay, Archibald. Germany and blank. Oh, okay. Germany and Japan. This was Japan. I just read that sentence, so hang on. This is, so number 3 is poor. Number 4 is Japan. Which of the following are the main reasons for population growth? Advances in medicine and higher standards of living. More food and more pollution. Additional people to have more children and more automobiles. I wonder what it could be. This fact explains another interesting statistic. In 1900, Europe contained around 25% of the world's people, but in 2050, it will have less than 10%. So here we can see some of the things that happened that might have affected population. So agriculture farming starting in a scientific way, basically, was back here, and you start seeing it start to go up because of more food going up. And then in here we see a tiny kind of drop because of the bubonic plague. And then Industrial Revolution, which is where a lot of people start moving to the cities, so people were super close to like each other. And then major scientific and medical advances begin, and it just goes like straight up. All right. There are many reasons for fast population growth, but the most significant include medical advances and generally improved standards of living in poor countries, which mean fewer deaths from diseases or from malnutrition. Indeed, average life expectancy across the world has risen 20 years since 1950s, from 48 to 68. And the biggest rises have been in poor countries. So this one is advances in medicine and higher standards of living. All right. Some people already talk of a crisis of overpopulation, expecting there to be wars over it. Some people talk of a crisis, expecting there to be wars over access to weapons, housing, natural resources. Right. Some people already talk of a crisis of overpopulation, expecting there to be wars over access to natural resources, and warning that because those resources are finite, it is impossible for 7 billion people, let alone 9 or 10, to have the kind of high consumption lifestyles that people in the world's richer countries currently enjoy. Others, however, believe the planet can accommodate another 2 or 3 billion humans without a social and environmental catastrophe. We can only hope the optimists are right. So you can only have so much water, you can only have so much, what else? Food. I mean, in a sense, you end up running out of everything eventually. All right. So that is the actual part of the chapter on here. We're going to watch the videos. But go ahead and make sure you submit this chapter.